On a crisp September morning in 2007, the life of one quiet British family was shattered in a way that still echoes 18 years later. Their son, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden, was the kind of boy most parents dream of raising. Brilliant at math, deeply creative, a lover of video games and music, he had a future so bright it almost seemed inevitable. But on September 14th, Andrew left home for school, or so everyone believed. Instead, he took a different path. He withdrew £200 from his bank account, walked calmly to the train station in his hometown of Doncaster, and bought a one-way ticket to London. It was the last confirmed act of his life. What makes Andrew's disappearance so haunting is not just the silence he left behind, but the deliberate choices he made that morning. He didn't forget his backpack. He didn't leave in a rush. Every step, from skipping school to withdrawing money to boarding that train, seemed calculated. And yet, once Andrew arrived at London's King's Cross station around 11:20 a.m., he simply vanished. No one ever saw him again. Imagine it. A crowded train station in the very heart of one of the busiest cities in the world, and a boy disappears without leaving a single trace. No CCTV footage beyond the station exit. No phone calls, no messages, just silence. The question that has tormented investigators, family, and true crime enthusiasts ever since is this: was Andrew running towards something, or running from something? Over the next 15 years, countless theories have emerged. Some say he ran away to escape a life he found too ordinary. Others whisper about online predators, secret meetings, or darker worlds hidden beneath London's streets. And in recent months, new details have surfaced that make this case even stranger. This is not just the story of a boy who vanished. This is the story of choices, secrets, and the terrifying possibility that Andrew Gosden knew exactly what he was doing. So let's go back to that morning, to the last known steps of Andrew Gosden, and follow the trail into the unknown. The year was 2010. A police search for a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert led officers to the marshes near Gilgo Beach. But instead of finding her, they uncovered something even more horrifying: the remains of 4 other women, each wrapped in burlap sacks lying just yards from one another. The discovery sent shockwaves across Long Island. Soon the investigation widened, and more bodies were unearthed along Ocean Parkway, bringing the total to at least 10 sets of remains. For the public, it was unthinkable. How could so many women go missing, their bodies left in nearly the same place, without anyone realizing the pattern? For investigators, it was a nightmare. They faced enormous pressure, and every step seemed to raise more questions than answers. The victims, many of them young women in their 20s, shared haunting similarities. Most were last seen after advertising escort services online. Families described them as daughters, sisters, and mothers, women who wanted better lives but ended up caught in dangerous circumstances. But as the investigation deepened, problems emerged. Miscommunication between police departments, delays in following leads, even disagreements over whether Shannon Gilbert herself was a victim of the killer or whether her death was unrelated. These missteps would haunt the case for years. The Long Island community was gripped by fear. Rumors spread about a serial predator hunting along the coast. Journalists descended on Gilgo Beach. And slowly, the legend of the Long Island serial killer began to take shape, a faceless shadow who seemed untouchable. Yet through all the chaos, one truth became clear. Someone out there had been killing for years, and they were still free. For more than a decade, the Gilgo Beach murders remained one of America's most chilling cold cases. Year after year, the families of the victims begged for answers, but the investigation seemed frozen in time. The killer, or killers, appeared to have vanished back into the shadows. Then, in July 2023, everything changed. Police arrested a 59-year-old Manhattan architect named Rex Heuermann. Married, a father of two, and living in a quiet Long Island suburb, he seemed like the last person anyone would suspect. But inside his home, investigators uncovered disturbing evidence: burner phones, internet searches for violent pornography, and even surveillance of the very victims whose remains were found along Gilgo Beach. DNA and cell phone records began to tie him to several murders. The arrest shocked the community. Neighbors described him as quiet, almost invisible. But prosecutors painted a chilling picture: a man living a double life, balancing a professional career in New York City with the darkest of secrets. Still, even with Heuermann in custody, questions swirled. Was he truly the sole Long Island serial killer? Or was he just one piece of a much larger puzzle? Investigators believe he is responsible for at least 3 of the Gilgo Beach victims, with possible connections to more. But others argue the case is far from over, and that additional killers may have been operating in the same area. By the end of 2024, the court system was preparing for one of the most sensational trials in New York's history. Families hoped for closure, journalists promised wall-to-wall coverage, and the world waited to see whether the truth about Gilgo Beach would finally be revealed. But then, as 2025 began, new revelations threatened to change everything once again. As 2025 began, the Long Island serial killer case once again captured global headlines. Court documents revealed chilling new evidence. DNA traces from previously unidentified remains matched items found inside Rex Heuermann's home. Investigators now suspect his involvement in more victims than originally believed. But that wasn't the only revelation. Journalists uncovered a trail of overlooked tips, dating back over a decade, that could have led to Heuermann sooner. Why were those leads ignored? Was it incompetence or something darker? Some believe powerful figures may have turned a blind eye, protecting the killer or at least slowing down the investigation. At the same time, new forensic technology shed light on several unidentified remains discovered along Gilgo Beach. Families who had waited years for answers were suddenly faced with heartbreaking confirmations. For some, the nightmare of uncertainty finally ended, but closure came with grief. The courtroom, meanwhile, turned into a media storm. Prosecutors portrayed Heuermann as a meticulous predator who lived a double life. The defense countered, arguing that evidence was circumstantial, that investigators were desperate to pin everything on one man. And hanging over it all was a single question: was Rex Heuermann truly the Long Island serial killer, or just one of them? For every answer uncovered in 2025, new questions arose. Were there accomplices? Did another killer operate along the same stretch of coastline? Or is the truth even stranger than anyone dares to believe? What seemed like the closing chapter of a long nightmare might just be the beginning of another. 18 years. That's how long it has been since Andrew Gostin stepped off that train and into the unknown. For his family, those 18 years have not been measured in birthdays or holidays, but in missing posters, false leads, and endless nights wondering if their son is still alive. His parents, Kevin and Glennis, never stopped searching. They clung to hope in every phone call, every unconfirmed sighting, every rumor that surfaced. Hope and heartbreak. Imagine living with that silence. Every ring of the phone, is it him? Every knock on the door, will he walk back through it? Every stranger in a crowd. Could that be Andrew? But Andrew never came home. And so the world has filled the silence with speculation. Some say he was groomed online. Others insist he ran toward freedom, away from a life he didn't want. A few whisper of darker forces, secret lives, and hidden communities. But none of these theories bring his parents peace, because without answers, every possibility is torture. In many ways, Andrew's case has become larger than a single boy's disappearance. It has become a symbol of the terrifying fragility of our lives. How, in a single morning, an ordinary family can fall into a nightmare that never ends. How a child can step into a city watched by thousands of cameras and leave no trace. And yet, the most haunting detail of all is not what we know, but what we don't. Why London? Why that day? Why the calm, deliberate choices of a boy who seemed to be in control, right up until the moment he vanished? Was Andrew Gosden a victim? Was he running towards something he believed in? Or did he stumble into a world so dark, so hidden, that it erased him completely? 18 years later, his story still grips us, not just because of the mystery, but because deep down, we all fear the same thing, that someone we love could disappear, and we might never know why. What do you believe happened to Andrew Gosden? Is he still out there, living under a new name, hidden in plain sight? Or was his story sealed on that September morning in 2007? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories of mysteries that still haunt the world, subscribe to this channel. Because Andrew's story is not just a case, it's a question that refuses to die.